There's a quiet question that lives inside many of us, a question we rarely voice, yet somehow always feel. Why was I born exactly when I was? Why not a few months earlier, or later? Why, under that sky, in that light, with that particular season pressing against the window as I took my first breath? Carl Jung once said that nothing that surrounds our birth is random. The time, the season, the stars, the archetypes in motion, they're not simply background noise to our arrival. They are a sacred language, a silent symphony that marks the entrance of the soul into the human experience. We're not talking about pop astrology or cookie-cutter horoscopes. We're speaking of living symbols, collective images embedded in the very fabric of time that imprint themselves into our psyche at the precise moment we're born. And what if that moment was chosen not by chance, but by a deeper intelligence? What if the month you were born into, cold or blooming, quiet or loud, was your soul's first teacher? What if that moment held not only your entrance into this world, but the first whisper of your spiritual mission? In this video, you're not just going to hear descriptions of the months, you're going to walk through the archetypal wheel of time, guided by the wisdom of analytical psychology, by the mythic eye of Jung, and by the quiet intuition that maybe, just maybe, you've always felt something ancient stirring when your birthday comes around. This is a remembering, a return to the symbolic atmosphere you were born into, and maybe, by the end of this journey, you'll finally understand you've always felt a little different in certain seasons, why some things hurt more than you can explain, why some gifts flow through you like water, and why, despite everything, there's always been something inside you that could never be fully explained, but was always deeply felt. Now, let's begin where your story begins. January, the keeper of the flame, January winter. Stillness, initiation, inner fire. To be born in January is to arrive in silence when the world is stripped bare, cold, reflective, and yet, beneath that frost, something burns, a quiet determination, a sacred discipline. January carries the archetype of the keeper of the flame, the one who protects inner fire through the long night. These are the old souls who come into the world, not to dazzle at first sight, but to endure, to deepen, to hold steady when everything else shifts. Their strength is rooted in the invisible, patience, persistence, the power of intention. They often feel older than their years, as if life asked them to grow up quickly, to be the ones who remember what others forget. They carry a weight that others don't see, that often they wonder why they can't just be light-hearted. But Jung reminds us, that which remains unconscious governs us as fate, and those born in January are called to bring deep self-responsibility into consciousness. Their soul's lesson, to honor their inner fire without letting it burn them out, to carry the torch, not as a burden, but as a sacred gift. February, the dreamer of worlds. February, winter, inner vision, intuition, waters of the psyche. February is winter's closing sigh. Cold still lingers, but there's a sense that something is shifting. And so, those born in February often live between realms, between logic and vision, between reality and possibility. They carry the archetype of the dreamer of worlds, intuitive, creative, emotionally sensitive. Their gift is perception. They see what others miss, feel what hasn't yet been said. Their thoughts move quickly, their emotions run deep. They're often told they're too sensitive, but what they're really doing is swimming in the collective unconscious, sensing the waves beneath the surface of things. That their challenge, grounding. Because while they can envision 1,000 futures, they often struggle to live fully in the now. The shadow of February is emotional overwhelm, instability, a desire to escape the mundane. But when balanced, they become visionaries, poets, intuitives, empaths who create bridges between the invisible and the known. Carl Jung would call them the carriers of the symbolic imagination, those who translate archetypal truth into beauty. March, the alchemist of thresholds. March, spring begins renewal, transformation, liminality. To be born in March is to be born in the threshold, as winter surrenders and spring whispers its return. Those born now are marked by transition. They carry the alchemist archetype, shapeshifters of the emotional world. They feel deeply, yet rather than drowning in emotion, they transform it. They are the ones who turn grief into wisdom, heartbreak into art, endings into beginnings. March-born souls often experience extremes, sometimes light and open, sometimes heavy and closed. They've always known that change is the only constant, but that knowing comes with a price. They sometimes struggle to find grounding, to know who they are beneath the shifting tides. Their gift is emotional transmutation, their pain, oscillation, but their light is golden. The ability to hold paradox, to evolve, to teach others how to move through transformation instead of resisting it. April, the guardian of essence. April, spring, structure, blooming, purpose. April is when the earth begins to bloom, not in the wild chaos of summer, but in the intentional unfolding of new life. To be born now is to carry the guardian of essence. Archetype. These souls instinctively know what's sacred: family, truth, silence, memory. Even as children, they feel the weight of protecting something valuable. They walk between the desire for freedom and the need for roots. They can be fiercely loyal to people, causes, or ideals, but their shadow can be rigidity, control, fear of change. The soul of April seeks meaning in stability, but must learn that true safety comes not from clinging, but from trusting the organic rhythms of life. Their beauty lies in their depth. They bring gentleness to strength, order to chaos, sacredness to the ordinary. They are the ones who remind others to come home to what matters. May the builder of foundations, may late spring patience, roots, inner steadiness may carries the soft resilience of late spring, when blossoms have opened and now begin to take root. To be born in May is to come into the world with the slow wisdom of the builder of foundations. These souls are grounded, steady, and quietly strong. They don't chase attention, but they hold the world together in ways most never see. May-born people are often the emotional anchors for those around them. They value loyalty, consistency, and truth that can be felt in silence. Carl Jung would say they possess the instinctual wisdom of the earth, the capacity to support others simply by being, but their shadow is invisibility. They are often overlooked because they don't demand space. And sometimes they begin to believe that being seen means being loud, when in truth, their power has always been subtle and profound. Their soul's journey is to trust in their quiet strength, to know that they don't need to become something else to be worthy. Their light is the kind that builds homes, hearts, and legacies, slowly, deeply, and for real. June, the guardian of the invisible. June, summer begins. Introspection, intuition, soul sight. June is a doorway, the solstice month, where light reaches its peak and then quietly begins its return inward. Those born in June are natural guardians of the invisible souls who live with one foot in this world and one in the symbolic realms. They are watchers, dreamers, old souls in young skin. June-born individuals often carry a quiet, intuitive intelligence. They sense what others miss, feel what hasn't been spoken. They may struggle with loneliness, not because they are alone, but because so few can meet them where they are. Jung taught that deep introspection connects us to the unconscious, and those born in June carry that gift from birth, but their shadow is retreat, a tendency to hide their light out of fear it won't be understood. Yet, when they embrace their insight, they become spiritual anchors, visionaries, and quiet healers of the collective field. June souls don't always speak, but when they do, their words rearrange something inside you. July, the silent healer. July, midsummer, emotion, empathy, soul warmth. To be born in July is to be shaped by deep waters. Even in the heat of summer, July holds a kind of stillness, like the surface of a lake that hides infinite depths beneath. July carries the archetype of the silent healer, those who don't fix with tools or words, but with presence. They are the ones who sit beside your pain without trying to change it, who listen so deeply that you start to hear yourself more clearly. These souls are deeply empathetic. Often from a young age, they feel what others carry, sometimes before they can name their own needs. Jung believed that the healer is also the wounded one, and July-born people often know that truth intimately. Their challenge is to not disappear into others. To hold compassion without self-erasure. Their gift is sacred care, a warm presence in a cold room, an ability to hold grief without drowning, a kind of emotional wisdom that doesn't need to be loud to be felt. August, the spiritual leader. August, late summer strength, sovereignty, inner fire. August blazes with late summer heat. It is the time of full ripening, of fruits hanging heavy on branches. To be born now is to carry the archetype of the spiritual leader, not always in title, but in essence. August-born souls often face trials early in life, experiences that force them to grow strong. fast, they carry authority in their bones, even when they don't seek it. They're not always the loudest, but they walk with a presence that says, "I've been through fire, and I've come back with something to offer." Their danger is pride disguised as independence. They may resist receiving help, believing their strength lies in self-reliance, but their true power awakens when they lead from humility, not control. Carl Jung saw transformation as an inner descent before the rise, and August knows that descent well. When they embrace their whole story, they become guides, protectors, torchbearers for others walking through the dark. Their light doesn't flicker, it roars silently. September, the OF, World's September, early autumn, balance, integration, discernment. September marks the turning of the year, when warmth begins to fade, and the light grows golden. Those born now carry the archetype of the harmonizer of worlds. They are natural integrators, sensitive to imbalance, deeply attuned to contrast. Their soul seeks unity between logic and feeling, past and future, self and other. They are gifted with clarity and a refined inner compass. They long for peace, but not superficial calm. They want the kind of peace that comes from deep alignment. But the challenge, their inner critic, they often set impossible standards, both for themselves and for those they love. They want harmony so deeply that they may hide their pain to preserve it. Yet Jung reminds us, true integration begins when we face what disrupts us, not bypass it. When September souls embrace both their longing and their imperfections, they become the mirror that helps others return to center. October, the lover of the soul. October, mid-autumn, depth, intimacy, transformation through connection. October is when the veil begins to thin between worlds, between selves. The winds pick up, the leaves fall, and something deeper stirs beneath the surface. Those born in October carry the lover of the soul archetype. Not romantic in the trivial sense, but soulful, magnetic, relational. They are drawn to meaning through connection. Their relationships are mirrors, showing them who they are and who they are becoming. They crave intimacy, depth, realness, but they also fear betrayal, rejection, loss. Their gift is vulnerability, their shadow, emotional control, a desire to hold on too tightly, to not be left again. Jung taught that projection is how we first meet the soul, and October lives that truth. When they learn to love without losing themselves, they become sacred companions, those who don't just walk beside you, but awaken something soul deep within you. November, the transformer of shadows. November, late autumn, depth, death, rebirth, inner metamorphosis. November is not just the end of autumn, it is the descent, the falling inward, the turning down. It is the month when the earth grows quiet, when nature begins to rot, and yet, in that rot, new life begins in silence. To be born in November is to carry the archetype of the transformer of shadows. These souls don't live at the surface. They are drawn to the underworld of the psyche. Two questions others avoid, two truths that disturb and liberate. They often feel like they've lived many lives in one. Their path is rarely easy, but in the breaking they discover what cannot be broken. They are alchemists of trauma, midwives of death and rebirth. Jung would say they are governed by Pluto's energy, the force that destroys only what is false. Their challenge is control, the fear of surrender, the pain of trust, the burden of always seeing the storm before it arrives, and yet their presence shifts things. Even when they say nothing, they are portals. Thresholds. Their gift is initiation, not into comfort, but into truth that frees the soul. Wherever they go, something transforms because it must. December, the wandering sage. December, winter returns, wisdom, vision, sacred closure, and then comes December. The year exhales. The sun wanes, the world wraps itself in silence and light, all at once. To be born in December is to arrive at the sacred edge, where endings become openings, where wisdom turns into wonder again. These souls carry the archetype of the wandering sage, part old soul, part eternal seeker. They are visionaries, philosophers, intuitive adventurers. They look at the world and ask, what's the deeper meaning here? They live with one eye on the stars, and one foot still learning how to stay grounded. Their challenge is presence. They often flee discomfort through ideals, plans, or distractions, but when they root themselves in the now, they become guides, showing others how to live with both reverence and joy. Jung taught that individuation is not about perfection, but about returning to wholeness, and December-born souls carry that map. a longing to weave what they know with what they feel, to become both the student and the teacher, the fire and the frost, the end and the beginning. The time you were born is not a coincidence that we've walked through the archetypal year. Perhaps something inside you remembers, not in words, but in resonance, a feeling, a color, a pull, a part of you that whispered, "That's me. I've always felt this, I just never had the language." Carl Jung believed that the unconscious speaks through symbols and time. The month of your birth is one of the first symbols your soul ever touched, not as fate, not as a label, but as a mirror. You are not defined by the month. You were born, but you are shaped by its atmosphere, its season, its sacred language too. Be born is not just to arrive, it's to step through a portal, to enter a story already in motion. And when you were born, the earth was in a very specific rhythm, the sky had a particular voice, the trees were doing something ancient, and your soul, with all its wounds, and wisdom, and light, entered that exact moment, not by accident, but by calling. So maybe the most important question is not, why was I born in this month, but rather, what does this moment say about who I'm here to become? Because the time you were born is not a time stamp, it's a teacher, a beginning, a blueprint, and if you listen, it might just tell you something you've been waiting your whole life to hear.